Live from Rockford, you're watching a WIFR Fastcast.
Our top story for this Fastcast, a 64-year-old man is found guilty for beating a woman almost 2 years ago. Now, in October of 2024, Christopher Ware grabbed the woman, ripped some of her braids, grabbed her by the throat, beat her, and threatened to kill her. Winnebago County deputies were then sent to the 5100 block of Zenith Parkway in Machesney Park, where the woman says Ware hit her. The woman lost consciousness from the attack and needed surgery. Ware was found guilty of domestic battery, but not guilty of attempted first-degree murder. He'll be back in court October 29th and could face decades in prison. 20-year-old Charles Crenshaw III is in Janesville police custody after officers believe he aided 4 people who were involved in a deadly shooting. Police say Jason Kaplan died August 9th in the 100 block of South Academy Street. 2 others were hurt in the shooting. Crenshaw is also accused of having THC. Mantees Granger, Demetris Cooper, Tyshawn Howie, and Marshawn Jones are also behind bars in connection to the shooting. A Winnebago County judge finds 36-year-old Napalti Cruz Santos guilty of sexually assaulting a child in June of 2023. Rockford police were called to a home in the 300 block of South Alpine Road. The child told officers that Naphtali and his brother David Cruz Santos sexually assaulted them during a game of tag. The child didn't know about the crime until they looked at a video about Aaron's Law in high school. Aaron's Law is a program that teaches students from pre-K to 12th grade about child sexual abuse and to tell a trusted adult. David was also convicted of the crime Monday. According to court documents in February of 2025, a woman told Loves Park police she was sexually abused between 2007 to 2015 by Melinda Butler and Philip Understall. The woman claims the abuse started when she was 9 until she was 17 and was forced to drink alcohol and wear skimpy clothing. When police spoke to Butler and Understall, both denied the allegations. Butler is a program service assistant for Youth Build Rockford. Just over 2 weeks away from the 25th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks, a military judge says they'll put one of the alleged masterminds on trial in 2 years. Senior national correspondent Peter Zampa is in New York with the details.
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed will stand trial in June 2028, according to a U.S. military judge. The alleged mastermind of the 9/11 terrorist attacks will enter the courtroom after decades of delays and 18 months later than prosecutors asked for. Since the attacks, a long list of setbacks have pushed back this trial. In 2007, Mohammed claimed responsibility for the 9/11 operation and other plots, but defense lawyers say these were forced confessions after intense torture at Guantanamo Bay. Multiple attempts at plea deals have collapsed since then, and a trial scheduled for 2021 was canceled. The judge in this case pushing the proposed 2027 start date to 2028 to resolve any pretrial issues, including what evidence can be used. Mohammed has been held at Guantanamo Bay since 2006, 3 years after he was arrested in Pakistan. He's set to go on trial alongside 3 of his alleged co-conspirators. Reporting in New York, I'm Peter Zampa.
All right, now switching gears over to weather, let's take a look at our 7-day forecast. Starting with today, partly cloudy skies, 81 degrees, and that will carry on to Friday. Look at Friday, 83 degrees, partly cloudy, sunny skies, can't complain. Then going into the weekend, we do have a 40% chance of some showers in the evening. But Sunday, 20% chance as well of showers, but mostly sunny and partly cloudy skies. Now our temperatures, though, if you look, they're going to start to tick up. Look at Monday, 88 degrees, partly cloudy skies, and it looks like we have a 30% chance of some storms. 20% chance of storms on Tuesday, and that will carry into the evening on Wednesday. But again, we are seeing those temperatures start to spike back up after we were sitting in some more comfortable temperatures recently. But meteorologist Kira Miner will have the complete breakdown of our forecast coming up here at our 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock shows. All right, well, RPS 205 parents are continuing to express their frustrations with the Zoom bus company as one grandmother shares the scary situation her family faced just this week. The Guardian claims her grandson's Zoom bus was left without a driver Tuesday afternoon. She says this forced the 11th grader to take an RPS activity bus to the closest school and walk home. After trying to communicate with both Zoom and the district all afternoon and in the days that have followed, she says there has been nothing, now forcing their family to question whether he is in safe hands using the transportation.
If Zoom was saying that they are reliable and other things in the description of their mission statement, I have yet to see it for one child, period. And that's my concern, the safety, getting him to school on time, him not feeling like, here I go again.
President Donald Trump signs an executive order renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America. Canada announced this week it is retaliating against U.S. tariffs with tariffs of its own up to 50% on more than 700 U.S. products. The standoff with Canada could go on for a while, with the U.S. Trade Representative saying there are currently no open channels of communication.
Lake change, Lake of America, was something I've been thinking about for a long time, actually. So if you think about it, we have a Gulf and we have a lake. Now all we need is an ocean.
Targeting products that will target states in the U.S. And so we're being wise and strategic to put political pressure.
AAA reports domestic airfare rose 2% this year, averaging $750 per ticket. For those traveling Labor Day, be prepared to pay more as ticket prices are up 20% compared to last year. The most popular destinations include Seattle, Orlando, and Boston. Cruise prices dipped 4%, with the average price at $2,700. Now, some bad news for the Rockford job market, as there was a drop in non-farm payroll jobs last month. There was around 105,500 jobs, which is down 400 jobs than last year, according to the Illinois Department of Employment Security. Some potentially encouraging news, though. Rockford's unemployment rate dropped 1.2 points last month to 4.3%. More homes are hitting the market across the state line, and longtime homeowners are helping add to that supply. The Northwest Alliance of Realtors says inventory across Winnebago, Boone, and Ogle counties more than doubled in July compared to last year. Annette and Gene Shields recently sold the home they had lived in since 2008. The realtor says she's beginning to see more longtime homeowners make similar moves. The Alliance says three-county inventory jumped from 180 homes last July to 407 this year. But for the Shields, adding one more home to that supply meant leaving behind a place they spent years making their own.
The home meant an awful lot to me and to both of us. We fixed the home up the way that we really wanted it. I hated to leave what I called my rose garden.
Well-known voice actor Peter Cullen, whose voice connected him with well-known Transformer Optimus Prime, dies at the age of 85. He lent his voice as Winnie the Pooh's friend Eeyore and as the alien in the sci-fi thriller film Predator. He voiced Optimus Prime in the Transformer franchise for decades, voicing the character for 8 live-action films.